Welcome, everyone. Today, my sister Amanda Amai from Kenya and I invite you on an electrifying journey into unlocking women's economic power. As we stand at the cusp of International Year of Women Farmer and celebrate 115 years of International Women's Day, we ask a bold question. What if we saw women not just as recipient of aid, but as unstoppable engine of growth and innovation? In this dynamic conversation, we'll uncover how rural women are changing food systems, sparkling resilient businesses, and driving inclusive economic growth. Get ready to challenge the status quo, rethink investment, and see how giving to women means gaining so much more. Let's dive in. Amanda, thank you for joining us today. I'd love to start by grounding us in how we think about women within the economic system. You see, so often when we talk about working with women, especially rural women and farmers, it tends to be framed through a social lens, either uh, just as support or upliftment or even as charity. But in this webinar is really challenging that narrative and inviting us to see women as central economic actors and strategic investors in growth. From your perspective, why do you think
Mhm.
this framing persists? And how does it ultimately shape or, limit women's access to capital, markets, network, and even leadership opportunities?
Well, Alexa, I'm happy to be having this discussion with you. I know we started our conversation way back in Senegal. And by and large, I would say that women's portrayal in society is that of a caregiver, that of a nurturer. And when we look at the context of food systems, the narrative around women is always from a disadvantaged point of view, that women are underrepresented, which is true, that women contribute to about 60% of the agricultural labor force, yet their remuneration is about 22 to 35% less than men, which is true. But the common denominator amongst this depiction of women in agriculture is that they are in need of help, which is true, but we can frame them as a business opportunity as opposed to a needy person in society. And even the pictures we see, you can type woman in agriculture in Africa, and you'll see a lady maybe with a baby strapped on her back, with a sweltering sun. And that to me does not look like a business opportunity. It looks like this woman needs help. When we look at cross cutting issues that are affecting women when it comes to access to resources, these are legitimate and genuine cases plaguing women. But if we keep framing it as we need women to be helped, they're at the bottom of the barrel, and if we don't lift them up, they will be drowning, then it will forever seem to take shape and form as a charity or you're doing good, it's goodwill. But how do we change this narrative is when we present women as a business, when we present the challenge as an opportunity. I see you have a beautiful jacket on you and a lovely dress. And I would like to believe you bought it not because you wanted to help the owner, not because you were feeling pity or you were sympathizing with the owner or the seller, but there was a proposition that spoke to you. There is the fit. If I want to sell that jacket to you, I have to tell you, Alexa, this is made from cashmere, for example. It's hand woven or it's limited edition. And that would let me use the word provoke you to actually want to buy that this is limited edition. It's a signature collection. It's cashmere. It's top of the range type of quality that has been used to make this jacket. Then I'm likely to buy it. But if I say, okay, please buy this jacket, my children depend on your money to eat tonight, then the narrative is different, and that's why it would borderline look at a welfare issue for women as opposed to it being a business issue.
Thank you so much. Um, Now, building on that, I'd like us to zoom in more intentionally on rural women, especially in light of the International Year of the Women Farmer. When we look at food systems, sustainability, and even poverty reduction, rural women are often at the very center of that work. Yet, their contribution can sometimes be totally invisible. From your perspective, what critical role do rural women play across these areas? And why is it so important that we recognize and invest in that role more strategically?
That's a great question. And this year we are all about celebrating the woman farmer in whichever shape or form she comes in. And statistics show that when a woman is empowered, either financially or through education, there is an increased expenditure on the household. So you see, they still make a business sense when a woman is empowered. And this in turn leads to poverty reduction because women are likely to invest more in the education of their children. Women, when empowered, are going to invest back into their household, their nucleus, their community. So you find the children get better quality education. And since we're looking at food systems, children also get access to better nutrition. So women are able to buy better quality food or get access to higher nutritional dense foods. So there'll be a shift in the, what do we call it, in the eating patterns of the family. They're likely to have better nutrition, especially for children. So overall, you'll see that there'll be a reduction in malnutrition or general malnutrition. And also when we're looking at SDG 2, which is zero hunger, and zero hunger in tandem affects, it's that knock-on effect that affects SDG 1 on no poverty. So we see when the woman is empowered and when the woman is economically empowered as well, that it has that knock-on effect that will in turn raise a generation that will reduce poverty. And also when we look at the increased expenditure, then the other ecosystems benefit from her increased expenditure.
I totally agree with you on the point of that when resources go to women, they actually circulate back to the entire community. So we
Mhm.
shouldn't view or look at it like it is resources going to her. No, it is resources circulating through the entire economy. Now, at the same time, there's still this strong perception that men are the primary providers. How do we navigate that narrative? On your perspective, why do you think it is important for women to earn their own income? And does that mean that we are asking for too much? Or are we simply just reframing what shared prosperity really looks like?
Okay, that's a beautiful question, Alexa, and it goes back to our African heritage and some of the cultures that we espouse, being a patrilineal society. And of course, women empowerment does not counteract the role of the man in society. It's complementary and not competitive. And some initiatives have missed the mark, if I might say, to paint it as a him versus her situation, like they're at loggerheads. No, it's like our hands, they complement, they fit into each other to make this perfect harmony. Well, we see they're different lengths and sizes. That said, women empowerment is not only financial. is the whole nature of the woman, and finances is just one of them. And empowerment means that we are enabling them to contribute to society more meaningfully, in terms of, are we benefiting from their skills? Are we benefiting from their ideas? Are we benefiting from even the care work that they give? We are not going to diminish the role of women in the home, but are we compensating their efforts enough? Okay. When a woman is starting a business and when a man is starting a business, are we going to ensure that the barriers to doing business are addressed? Or a woman is going to face more hurdles than a man? Therefore, we fail to embrace the fullness of what the woman can give because she had so many obstacles to overcome by the time her business is up and running or by the time her business is breaking even. Whereas the man has taken leaps and bounds and gone ahead uh, in comparison to the woman. So we're not saying that the man should not provide. We're saying empowered, then you have, for those who are Christians, like a balanced or equally yoked relationship. It's a balanced dynamic. And it will also reduce cases of abuse of power, and it takes shape in different ways. There are women who are married and who go through financial abuse. May not be physical, but it's financial abuse. An empowered woman is also able to make better decisions. Right. Are you making a decision because you feel like you can't do anything else unless the man is providing for you? Another reason is the dignity that even financial empowerment brings. And I attended one of the fora where a lady will say, there's some things I want to get for myself, not because my husband is not a provider, but I feel that like they're mine as a woman. For instance, if I want to get sanitary towels, should I be asking my husband for everything? It gives you that healthy balance on outlook on life and as opposed to being a dependent. Then we also look at some women who are not yet married and they are old enough to live outside of their father's care. Are we going to say all women should depend on their husband?
I would like us to shift the lens a bit and talk about strengths, because often what is overlooked is not the potential, but what women are already doing exceptionally well. In your experience, what are some of the strengths women bring into business and enterprise that tend to be overlooked, by investors and institutions? And how might recognizing these strengths more intentionally change the way we design investments, partnerships, and support systems?
Well, first, I'd say the pull factor. Women have a strong pull factor and they coalesce a lot more around each other, and just generally their pull factor is much higher. We see in the case of, what do we call them? In English, they've been called merry-go-rounds. In Kiswahili, we call them chama. Right. And a recent, was it so recent? But within the month or within the last few weeks, there was a discussion I follow. It's called Money Mondays, and how some women are overlooked. And it came from this exact point of being seen as a welfare case. And these chamas, more often people speak about it from the context of, they can get food to eat, just bare minimum. Like the chama will spare you from poverty, like you're one meal away from hunger and so on and so forth. But there's also another dimension where these chamas have invested widely in high-rise buildings, in real estate, in infrastructure and investments. And the narrative around chamas and the pull factor women have is just often limited to just household basics, that you have a chama for shopping, you have your chama for foodstuffs, or just for borrowing small amounts within or below $500, whereas there are chamas that have invested to the tens of thousands of US dollars and even more yet we're not speaking about them. That's number one. And secondly, the repayment rate amongst women and men for those in financial institutions is recorded to be much better than male borrowers. And if people keep framing women as unable to keep up with the economic times, well, look at the statistics and look again. Women are more likely to invest the money, especially when we look at agricultural finance products. Women are likely to appropriate the funds for the loan accordingly, unlike misallocation of funds. And again, we're not saying men are bad. We're just talking about statistics that some, not all, some have made the statistics look that way, that there'll be a higher chance of misappropriation of the loan, because if you get something subsidized, then there is a high chance that it will be rerouted for another use beyond that which it was conscripted for. And also the repayment rate, I already spoke about this, is much higher. So that's another, could be another missed opportunity about women. And something else is that they have that, should I say, God given talent on balancing and juggling different things at the same time, because of just how we were created. You're either a mother, you're running a business, you're in school, you're doing so much more. And I've seen or I've read about women in industry who have done so much, and I can see that they're extraordinary. And women can have a woman can have businesses spanning across industries, and we don't talk about that as much. So I think the multiplicity of our skills, of our talents, is under represented, or should I say, we don't speak about it enough. And the intuitive nature of a woman means that though we may take longer to make decisions, unlike our male counterparts who are logical, we make more grounded decisions. So those are some of the. Exactly, exactly. Absolutely right. And just to flesh that out a bit more, it's our God-given sixth sense that we'll read so much, how to think like a man, how to act like a man, and we are constricting that which should be harnessed. That we have that intuitive power, and when, as you said, you can feel something is not right. We can't explain it, but there's something beyond, like the metaphysical aspect of that women possess. And men are logical, and they go with it, like it's 5 o'clock, it's time for us to launch this rocket, let's lift off. And a woman can say, I don't think so. I really don't think so. We may not know why, but these are just some of those soft skills or soft powers, superpowers that women have. Mhm.
As we think about shifting women from being seen in as social context to being recognized as strategic economic actors, the question then becomes, how do we make that shift visible? How can women more effectively showcase their strengths and capabilities in a way that attracts strategic partnership, investments, and access to market? And what needs to change, not just from women themselves, but also from institutions and investors to truly move women into this strategic space?
Number one, it would be speaking from results, and that would mean when we look at the statistics, because they say numbers don't lie, we should make more concerted effort to map out the kind of impact women have had or continue to have in the sphere. For instance, if we have women-led businesses, what percentage do they comprise of the GDP, for example? If we have women in leadership, when we have a certain percentage of women in leadership, how has this in turn affected the overall performance of the company vis-a-vis with this percentage of male leadership? So we are able to look at numbers and metrics and pragmatically say, indeed, when we have more women representation in leadership, we're able to realize this kinds of outcome, as opposed to coming from the narrative of the victim that, oh, we don't have women in leadership and we want a space. So, aside from tokenistic advocacy, we would rather have it empirical and have facts and actual outcomes speak for women. Then the second thing, and it's echoed throughout our conversation so far, is how we frame the woman farmer. What's her story? Who is this woman you're talking about? Is she always the one who has five children back to back, who wakes up at 3 in the morning and has an abusive husband? Or are we talking about, and these realities are true. I am not in any way, once again, saying that they don't exist. They do. But we need to frame it from an opportunity as opposed to coming from victimhood time and time and time again. We do have women farmers who have overcome barriers. We do have women agripreneurs who have gone against the grain and made a name for themselves and their businesses. We can instead be talking about what tactics did they employ? How did they overcome these hurdles? So we're coming from a point of a success story instead of a story that will elicit pity and sympathy and empathy. Again, these are legitimate feelings that we should have towards them because some scenarios are desperate, extremely desperate. But when we teach people to fish, then giving them the fish, then we are empowering them. Again, another word we've used time and again, but we're giving the power over to them. If I give you a fish, you'll have to come back to me for the next fish. If I teach you how to fish, then you can go out into the deep and get fish for yourself.
Yes, Amanda. I would like to start by saying that you have uh, personally been a source of empowerment and inspiration for so many women, and me being among them. Yeah, the way you show up, the way you best position yourself in spaces that require confidence. And that brings me to this reflection. While we often talk about external barriers, I've come to realize that mindset plays such a powerful role in how women see themselves and ultimately how they show up. Sometimes, without even realizing it, we can limit our own exposure to opportunities. You know, it can be by hesitating to take up space or not fully recognizing the value that we bring to the table. So I'd really love to hear your thoughts. What mindset shifts do you believe are most critical for women to truly position themselves and step in their full potential? Yeah, so that they can better expose themselves to opportunities, partnerships, and growth.
Oh wow, Alexa. Well, you empower me too, and you encourage me as well with how you boldly and unashamedly own your space. Well, one mindset shift I would want to start off with is that it's not a competition. It's not a him versus her. And I think that men versus women approach is more detrimental than it is constructive. But how do we complement each other's efforts would be a better approach, right? The strengths that men bring are different from the strengths that women bring. And we can't do away with one entirely and say that now this is women empowerment when there's absolutely no man in the room and so on and so forth. But I think we can take a more wholesome and more inclusive approach to that we are not working against them but with them. That's number one. Number two, we need to share our success stories more. We are quite modest. And again, I like reading different sources of informational material. And one of was why good girls don't get the corner office, but just amongst the bestsellers that have been there is we need to learn how to boast as women. I think generally, I don't know if it's a woman thing or also again within our context as you know, in Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, I would like to say, you're supposed to be modest and just keep matters to yourself and don't share too much. You look prideful, but it's about time we learn to toot our own horn. Let's share our victories. Let's share our victories more. Let's share our successes more with the same kind of zeal that people are showing the woman with torn clothes under the hot sun. Let's also, on this other side, show women in industry who are exporting horticultural produce in the tons and have employed several women who are aggregators and have and continue to do so much to contribute to the GDP. Let's be as loud about those successes as we are about this 13-year-old girl who has to be married off to an old man because there's not enough school fees. Let's shout more about this and let the world know that women are making leaps and bounds and that they're able to take up leadership positions and that they're able to drive economies. So I would say let's learn how to boast. Kwa wanawake wenzangu, ningependa kuwahimiza ya kwamba kuna hadithi yako ambayo tunataka kusikia. Huwezi jua maisha ambayo unaweza gusa. Tunaweza jifunza, tunaweza pata kuhusu tunaweza pata mengi kutoka hadithi yako. Kwa hivyo usiogope. Usiogope, usijishikililie, jitokeze. Wacha tukujue, wacha tujue ambacho unachofanya. Na katika kujieleza hivyo huwezi jua maisha ambayo utagusa.